the plans for today's episode was NXT. I woke up this morning, watched NXT, and for some context, I haven't watched NXT for the last good few weeks, right? I watched the Mandy Rose Roxanne match, but outside of that, I haven't really watched it in a few weeks. And I just put on NXT this morning, watched it for full 2 hours, sent over the topics for the show to Clark and Kobe, and I get a message off Kobe saying that was last week. I go back on a BT player and I see that, yes, I watched last week's episode of NXT and this week's isn't available in the UK. So that was a great start to my day today. So I haven't actually fully watched NXT from last night. I've just read the full spoilers and all that. But thankfully, both Clark and Kobe have done. But what I want to start off with today is Julius Creed last night had a hell of a performance from what I'm hearing. And the question is, at this point, it almost seems like they might be building him up, potentially, for a singles run. So do you split up the Creed brothers for the main roster? What do you think, Kobe?
I guess, because that was one of the ones I did catch, is yes, Julius Creed and McDonagh had just a solid and entertaining match. Like, I mean, McDonagh's always great.
Yeah.
And then Julius has been able to match it whenever he is. And like, that's the thing. I saw him on the Republic Awards as one of the most improved, because he truly is one of the most improved, because he's always in the ring bringing something new. He's athletic, he's strong, and he truly is that guy. Brutus Creed theoretically could bring him down, but are they splitting him up now? Unless Brutus is going to side with Veer and Sangha, like, I don't think they're gonna split him up now. But they've really like pushed Julius as this is probably the more singles guy out of the two, because they gave him the Halloween Havoc match again, the ambulance match, which was fun, entertaining as well. But like they have given him that position of he's better. So yeah. I don't know if they're splitting them up, but I do really see the future in Julius over Brutus. Yeah. So, I mean, the Creed brothers would be good on the main roster as a team, but I do think Julius could be the breakout one, could be the Shawn Michaels to Brutus's Jannetty.
That's what I want to call it that. Like, there's been so many tag teams throughout the years, where one member he's just got, star power, while the other doesn't have, as big of a star power. But the issue is the main roster currently doesn't have too many, top tag teams. So the Creed brothers could, be a huge asset for the main roster's tag division, and, could be a real contender for the Usos. But at the same time, if the long-term aim is to, put Julius Creed as, make him the big star, then is it really worth putting the time into Brutus to, build him on the main roster instead of just breaking them up now and sending Julius up on his own? What do you think, Clark?
So I think you both brought up really, really good points. And Julius has clearly been the standout of the two thus far. But I also think, given their age, I think it really depends on how, and when I say like I mean WWE creative in general, values Brutus in the long run. Do they think that he can develop and match the level that Julius has been able to show? And I do believe Julius is the older brother, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
I'll check that for you now.
I do believe he's the older of the two. And so if you think he can close that gap, then I don't think it's worth breaking them up. If you don't think he can, then it probably is, because Julius has clearly separated himself of the two as far as in-ring talent. At the same time, though, given their amateur resumes, given how highly they were clearly valued,
Brutus is 2 years younger.
So I would say maybe you could split them up temporarily and let it, if you can find a way to let Brutus have some more time to develop, because I think it's a little bit unfair to Brutus as the younger brother in this instance. They both have very similar outstanding amateur wrestling background.
Yeah.
And Julius, being older by the nature of that, is going to have had more time to train in professional wrestling than Brutus has. And being paired together and learning from your older brother is always a great scenario. We've seen how Scott Steiner did that with Rick Steiner. That worked out well
Yeah.
for him. We've seen it in other instances, with teams. I think I have a hard time deciding what I would do even in the short term, because I think each of the choices has implications long term that that really need to be considered, right?
Yeah.
And because what you don't want is to then have Brutus develop himself and you lose him almost, right? To
Yeah.
AEW, to something else, to whatever have you, right? Maybe
MLW, he'd be a good fit for.
AEW. Heck, he could go back and train freestyle wrestling for MMA fighters, given his background, and become an unbelievable coach, right? And just to lose a level of talent like that, just because Julius has been the standout of the two thus far, I think would be the only thing I'm afraid of.
Yeah. No, I do agree with that. And I mean, listen, if you were to, I've been thinking about this for a while. I'll quickly just touch upon it, right? And you slightly did when you talking about Steiner there, right? But I don't know what it is, right? And you guys can call me crazy for this because they are very different. But something about the Creed brothers just resembles the Steiner brothers for me ever so slightly. I don't exactly know what it is, but if they were to keep the Creed brothers together, I don't think I'd mind putting them with Bron Breakker and putting them as a faction to debut them to make a real quick impact on the main roster. I feel like that could be a
Ben, and then
move.
how about a rivalry with Imperium out the gates?
Oh, that would be very good.
Hello. Now we're talking.
No, I'd go Brawling Brutes.
Either or.
Because
or.
those are the stiff guys. Those are the stiff guys on the main roster that could handle the
either
brutality. Imperium are amazing, but theoretically, no. I'd 100% go.
I'd be fine with both.
I'd 100% go in Brawling Brutes because you could theoretically just go. You could have them brawl and it'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I really feel like that faction, if they were to do it, I feel like that could be, a big call up and be a big statement straight away. And then even, you could then set Julius up for, a singles run down the line if you do like a Shield type thing, a scenario. Right. And then, maybe Brutus maybe wouldn't work out on his own, but maybe he does improve and maybe he will be able to have a singles run down the line.